The families that I visited in Australia, all of them really enjoy family time, comprised of lots of people coming and going in and out of the home, people visiting each other's homes. I know this is really common in lots of parts of the world. It's a little less common in the United States as it is in other places, and I was really pleased to enjoy a bunch of fabulous family time. And if you don't have a family, maybe you create a family, like with the people that you work with, other kids' families, other kids that your kid is in school with or in therapy with, or you're using the same providers. It's a great idea to get families together to have outside, because kids learn from kids, not just from parents. And it's a really great opportunity for you to show how some of the kids in the crowd will be great at certain skills and other kids won't be good at certain skills. I brought some special snacks from America, some special sweet snacks, and I kind of rallied all the kids around to do some explanation. And you can see how one of these little guys was all in my face, right up there at front, wanted every turn. And then what I did was I presented good ideas. Hey, I've got these snacks from America. Do you guys want to try these snacks with me? And I had them all sit down and I got them organized in a little group learning experience. Then, of course, they ate all that sugar and we had to migrate over to the trampoline because they needed to burn off all that sugar. And then I got the bubbles out and I showed them how to expand their experiences, and they were watching each other. Some of them were more into the bubbles, some of them were more into the snacks, some of them didn't want to have anything to do with the other kids who were all over me, but they were watching from the background. In fact, that's what happens with a lot of late talkers. Little Charlie, he wasn't in the crowd. He was doing his own thing on the side. And that's what's so important about these group activities. His mom was kind of hanging back with him and watching him, or his dad, because he likes to have a facilitator near him, but he wasn't really ready to jump into the whole experience and do it himself. But the other kids were, and he was able to observe them from the outside. And I think that that's really important, because you can't not try things with the other kids just because one or two of the late talkers don't want to participate. Oh, then we can't do that anymore. The reality is they want to see the other kids. They want to see how they're blowing bubbles. They want to hear what they say because they learn from each other. So that's why these blended families of cousins and friends and everybody like that, it's a really good experience. So this family loves to camp, and they go camping every, couple times a month maybe, where they just go and set up tents and they barbecue and they visit this beautiful area where there's lots of great activities, and the kids love the water. This particular little late talker, he loves water. He's a little bit younger and he hasn't really learned how things in the world work, but he loves to see things splash. He's really into cause and effect. And he loves to see how even that happens, that cause and effect, when he watches movies or he sees things out in the world. And this cause and effect is really in effect, really evident when you're out in nature. And so when you go out in nature, you have to be careful, because especially in Australia, there's lots of things to watch out for. There's spiky things in the ground, and all of these kids are running around barefooted, and they had to be careful to stay away from certain areas and go only in the areas where it was sandy, all sandy, or softer grass, because those spiky things will stick right in your foot, some kind of sand spurs that they have. Here in Florida, we have fire ants. I know it's the same thing. That's why I don't go barefoot very much. But these kids in Australia, they just became used to it because their parents remind them all the time. This is where you got to walk to stay away from the spiky things on your feet. And the kids just know. So they learn, just like you have rules for riding the train. You have rules for going out in nature. There's things that you can get in and engage with. You can dig in the dirt. You can play in the water if the water's really shallow, but you always have to have parents around when you're by the water. It's all about how do we interact with these things, because we're out in nature and they could be things that interact with us. We saw this giant, I considered it to be giant, I'm sure there are bigger ones, but it was really big, this big lizard that just was invading this family's campsite. It was digging in their picnic basket and trying to get into their food. It was knocking things off. The adults had to shoo it away and secure that family's campsite because it's just, they see that there could be a lot of damage from this animal, and the kids were watching. It was so interesting. One little guy's advice was to stab it in the neck. Another one was to get away, run away. And so it was interesting for these families to talk about, what do we do when something potentially dangerous, this lizard could be dangerous if it bites somebody, and it was hungry, it was looking for food. We talked about how it's important to stay away and give these things space. We did feed. There were some birds that we fed that were there that were looking for food, and how it's probably not a good idea to feed those things because it attracts all these other animals to come to the area. You learn a lot of lessons out in nature about how to interact with things. By the water, the kids were able to throw rocks and make splashes, really big splashes, and they kept finding bigger rocks to make bigger splashes. Cause and effect. While we were out there, we found these painted rocks that somebody had planted. We picked them up so that we could take them other places, and we talked about how, what a fun game. Let's explore and look around to find more rocks. That's how we found wild animals instead of rocks. So the surprise, the cause and effect. We're looking for something, we found something. Was it something we were expecting? No. That makes it even more fun, because we have to figure out, what do we do when we find things that are new, that we have never seen before? Is it safe? Is it dangerous? That's where the language facilitation happens, when you're out in the wild, because you never know what's going to happen and you have to be prepared. So before those trips, planning, taking all your necessary equipment, showing where to walk, putting on the bug spray or the sunscreen, or wearing your hat or the right kind of clothes, all of those things are the important language facilitation topics that you need to bring up before, during, and after your camping or out in the wild hiking experience, wherever you're going to see things out in nature. So I hope that this little language facilitation on location video was interesting for you. Do you get out in nature? Comment where you go out to explore with your late talker, and how do they respond and react to the wild things they see out in nature. Put it in the comments, and I'll see you on the next language facilitation on location video.